cannot pack a district or split it solely based on race. You can't use that as the preeminent doctrine to create a district to add seats. So California doing that, they're probably going to get challenged. I think there's going to probably be a stay because there's literally a litany of lawsuits about to be filed. So I imagine that these things are going to stay for probably a while. So I don't think California will be able to do the redistricting there, which again sucks. And then by the presidential cycle, they're going to have a census. They're going to lose 6 seats on their own. So even if they redistrict, they're still 6. How are they going to make up for it?
Wait, they're not having a census till...
No, when they have, I know, but when they have that census, they lose 6. Right now, they're projected to lose anywhere from 4 to 6. I'm going with 6 because I don't believe that California has like a massive influx of businesses and people coming in outside of the homeless. I just really don't.
One of the most ironic things, and so it was actually, I was talking to Richard Spencer, I think, I don't know.
Oh boy.
So you guys might know who he is.
Oh, I know exactly who we've told you.
Yeah, and I was talking to him, and I was having to look this shit up, and he's actually a fairly intelligent person, you know, and he's saying, like, you know, he was complaining about how he thinks one of the most bombastic claims that he hears coming from the right is that the browning of California, the demographic change, is what turned it left. And it was actually, what ended up happening is that he's actually correct. You had a huge influx of people into different areas in California that ended up basically making a place much further left. And then you had, like, you know, obviously the Bay Area and so forth. And then you have, you actually see that, like, the Hispanic population in particular has been progressively turning more right-wing. And in fact, I think in California, I don't know what the percentage of the Hispanic males. It might have been a majority. It was near 50% of them voted for Trump in 2024. But it is. I forget what I was responding to that made me want to say that. But yeah, the racial redrawing the maps along racial lines. I don't know how much that would work.
Well, so I mistook that. I thought the whole time that they wouldn't have gotten it in time for the midterms. But so if a judge doesn't stay it and they go forward, then those districts are redrawn for this election in November, is what you're saying, in California.
If a judge approves it and no lawsuits, yeah, they'll go in for this midterms. They're going to be there. They're going to have the map drawn, but they're going to get challenged already. The lawsuits are already pending out the door.
I'm trying. Are there others other than the states you rattled off? I mean, it must be every state looking at this now, at least with the Republican governor.
But Abby, with the new Supreme Court ruling, don't you think like the southern states should do it? Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, all sorts of states should like redistrict it, show like the way that they've done it in New England. When you look at New England, it's a disgrace. 40% of people in Massachusetts vote Republican. Same thing New York, same thing Rhode Island, same thing in Massachusetts and other places. So why is it like, don't you think that the Republican governors, like they're doing in Louisiana right now, are calling off their primaries to be sure if they're going to get Republicans in there?
It's complicated as people live in, like, just like separating like the inner cities, which... look at like I don't know what percentage of Long Island is Republican. I'm guessing it's a lot higher than people who live in New York City. But they're in such close proximity to each other, yet you're going to see differences in averages of like how they vote. I personally don't know how you rectify that. It's not my.
No, but I'm just saying I'm not talking about like rectifying and everything. I'm talking about like doing the same maps that they've done in New England. If you look at the New England maps, they're absolutely ridiculous. What they've done with that.
But if you look in like New England, if you look at like Boston, for example, you have a lot of smaller. So you have basically Boston and Massachusetts. Everything else is a lot. That metropolitan area dwarfs, all of the other towns and and cities in that state, and so they are. How do you? So you can look at a map of Massachusetts where it's overwhelmingly red, but then you have like the bulk of the population living in one area, and they tend to be blue, and that's kind of the different. That's always kind of been a thing when it comes to the urban versus more rural people. They do tend to be a little bit different. The urban people tend to be more liberal generally, more educated generally, and they're going to vote differently. But these big cities, because they're big cities, they have the bulk of the population, and so how can you really remedy that? You give like 20%. You just like so imagine like 20% of the population occupies 80% of the state. But then 80% of the population occupies 20% of the state. Who do you disenfranchise here?
Yeah, but I'm saying
the majority of the people or the majority of the landmass. Like that's where it's kind of.
I'm not talking about landmass. I'm talking about, for example, Alabama can do the same thing. Arkansas can do the same thing. Louisiana can do the same thing. Everybody can redistrict like they do in New England. And then if the Republican states redistrict like they do in New England, you would never have a Democratic, house.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that.
Years.
We couldn't do that in a state like Massachusetts. No, but New England, like Massachusetts, we could never do that.
Just let me finish. In Maine, 40% of people vote Republican. In Alabama, the same thing, All I'm trying to say is that why don't Republicans just do the same thing the Democrats do in New England to the southern states?
Oh, yeah, that's an very easy answer. The problem is that the Democrats occupy, once again, the majority of the population that is clustered in urban centers. Then you get the more rural people that are overwhelmingly or just slightly more Republican. That is the problem. Now, the question you should be asking is, how do we change urban, especially educated people that live in cities on the eastern seaboard from being liberal? I mean, that's a whole different question.
That's what I'm talking about. Like having a degree doesn't make you educated. Like I have a degree. I'm sure all of us in this room all have degrees, in one way or another. All I'm trying to say is
no, but statistically, the more educated. Hold on. Statistically, the more educated you are, the higher your level of education in the United States, the more likely you are to be liberal. That's a consistent fact. You can bitch and whine about it all you want, but that is.
I'm agreeing with you. And the reason why I say it's a fact because they indoctrinate us that way. All I'm trying to say is the fact is that if New England can put their maps the way that they do, with congressional maps the way they do, why can't the South do that after the Supreme Court hearing?
What does New England do?
Have you seen New England? It's like 40% of the people in Massachusetts vote Republican, and they have zero seats.
Yeah, but they live in.
It's the same thing.
But they're absolute. 40%. This is where.
But the thing is, like.
Oh my God, you're not getting it. It's a mathematical thing. Okay, so the majority. Hold on. The majority of that 40% that are Republican are gonna still live in the big population center where they are going to have people that outnumber them, that are liberal, they're Democrats. Okay, so their votes are basically, you can just toss those right out the fucking trash, because in their districts, their vote is just, they're going to get outvoted. Then you have these sparsely populated districts of Republicans, which are a fraction of the population of the rest of the fucking state. You cannot compete with that many liberals in a state like Massachusetts. This isn't a gerrymandering issue. It's literally, they are a much more liberal fucking state than most states. I mean, if I'm being honest, and Massachusetts so happens to be one of the most educated states. You can look at Boston, all of the prestigious universities there, the average income there. They are doing incredibly well. Like, to expect them to not vote the way that they do, I mean, I'm sorry, that would go against, anything you would see in the United States, at least when it comes to correlation with education levels and your likelihood to be a Democrat.
You do know Boston and Massachusetts as voted Republican before. All I'm trying to say is that it's a terrible thing they're doing. If the liberal New England states can do what they're doing with their voting zones and everything else like that, the Republican southern states should be able to.
But what are they doing? What are they doing?
Have you seen the maps in Massachusetts?
I've seen the map, but I already explained it to you.
In Virginia last week, Virginia had a fucking referendum. It was the biggest sham fucking referendum I've ever seen in my entire life. It was a fucking.
I don't think you
And it was shut down.
And
Boston has one of the.
they celebrated it. And then today, wait. And then today, when Florida did the exact same thing through proper procedures and everything else, stripped away the 4 states of Virginia had done the same fucking thing. I'm talking about the seats. I don't care if New England.
But Virginia didn't win. They had a stay. It's been ruled against.
Exactly. Fucking hell.
Okay, but if you're talking about Boston, you're talking about Boston. Okay, Achek, stop. You're talking about one of the oldest democratic machines.
Yeah,
Like I said, hold on. Actually, I'm sick of screaming over you. Stop. So when it comes to and I said this earlier, you weren't in here. I don't think Brad was in here, but like the first big identity politics political machines in the United States were the Irish. They fucking hated Anglos. And Boston so happened to be one of them, and they've remained a democratic machine for decades. That's just Boston. I don't know. It's, to me, you're talking about an area that's just it is a lot more liberal than perhaps correct, and it has a democratic stronghold, and you're somehow saying they're doing something unfair. Well,
yeah, they
not
are,
really.
bro.
That's just like the liberals' home turf. That's like saying Idaho, it has a fucking problem because there's too many conservatives. It's just a conservative state.
Pepe, can I please reply to you? Like, the liberals in New England are doing something terrible. Have you seen the maps in New York? Have you seen the maps in
Yes, I live there. What are you talking about? Pepe's right, and so is everybody else. It's more liberal. They're more democratic based.
No, that's the one I'm talking about. Like,
the Mets aren't terrible.
Wait. I'm saying if the liberals can do that to their states,
they're not doing anything. They're mostly liberal.
Wait. If the liberals can do that to their states, then the Republicans should be able to do that. That's
what are you talking about?
Just let me land. This is why
they're not doing anything to us. They're in majority fucking liberal states.
Why do you think that Supreme Court case just happened yesterday when the Supreme Court said
that had to do with racial gerrymandering in the fucking South?
Louisiana.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly
no, that has nothing to do with Boston.
And then after,
Boston's a whole different fucking animal, dude.
Boston's a city, not a state, first off. Secondly,
there's no reason. No, I was talking about racial fucking existed. I'm saying
It did
if
exist.
the
What the
liberals
fuck
can
you
do that,
talking? Supreme Court said it did.
all I'm saying is, like, just let me line, bro. All I'm saying is, if the liberals can do that in England, the Republicans can do that to the southern
They
states.
have been doing it to the south.
No,
Everybody
they haven't,
draws their maps.
bro.
You don't understand how our
No,
system.
they haven't.
Okay. It's like, dude, I can't anymore. Either shut up and listen. The southern states, the Republican states, fucking redistrict and gerrymander themselves. The fact that you can't understand that seems to be just odd. It's fucking weird. Like, every state redistricts, redraws, and gerrymanders. All of them do that. All of them do cracking and packing based on that. And if you don't know what cracking and packing is breaking up a bloater block so you can get more out of it. Packing is you can basically trying to get all your power centralized into one area. Sound pretty fucking familiar? Because it occurs on both sides of the aisle, and both sides are vastly guilty of it. In fact, when you look at the data, it's about, I think Republicans are like 0.4% above Democrats. So it's basically 50-50. It's not even that margin of a wide thing when you start going down and looking at the numbers of this. So this weird fucking analogous thing you're doing about the Northeast is fine, because idiots said the same things about the fucking Great Blue Wall around the Great Lakes. And guess what? They fucking redistrict too, and a Republican still won. And they are redistricting now. The fucking multiple states do this. It happens everywhere. Fuck. You can even have cities start doing it, because if you ever looked at the boroughs around fucking Chicago and how those aldermen redraw their lines, you'd be like, holy shit, all right, that's kind of fucking crazy. So, like, your thing about it's just terrible, Clearly you don't know how our politics works. Clearly you don't know how the concepts are going on. And secondly, you're making a comment based on bullshit.
New England is liberal. It's been liberal for a long time. You have a very specific type of Republicans that could be in power, like Mitt Romney. I forget the name of the other fucker. And they stand out amongst other Republicans because of just how they're different.
Sununu is who you're thinking.
Sununu. Yeah, and so, like, I don't think, I don't know, comparing New England to, I don't know, Virginia or to Louisiana, of all fucking
Well,
places.
New England's not a state either. It's an entire fucking region.
Well, no, it's a region, no. But even if we look at places...
But you have
that are,
states that are red too. Like you have, what is it, Vermont? Vermont's a gun-toting fucking, or is it New Hampshire?
no, it's Democrat. It's Democratic.
It's Democrat, but they're gun-toting. Like you can't touch that Second Amendment in that
Yeah,
state.
very libertarian.
You cannot touch that shit whatsoever. There's not been a politician since fucking, I think, 1985 that has been able to walk around there saying we should restrict gun rights, because they just don't play with that. They may be like Bernie bros, but they're not fucking giving up the Second Amendment rights and certain other rights. They just don't want that.
Because it's like 98% white.
The meme with that, the meme with that though is that you could look at Vermont in comparison to all of their states, and I don't have to say anything other than that, but they
It's still
are.
a pretty state. I do like those states.
It is rather insular state.
White state.
Okay, and Mississippi is more of a black state. Like, I mean, again, we have these regions in the country. People gather for a variety of reasons, whether it's a history of oppression, history of tragedy, history of just moving it. Fuck, nobody lived in the South until fucking Birdseye figured out how to put a fucking refrigerator, and who is the group Carrier figured out how to make home fucking AC units in the South. Otherwise, none of you would be down here in the South fucking voting in the first place. It would be a very, very different go, especially from Texas westward. No one would be fucking living in Arizona.
Brad, wasn't Massachusetts, am I wrong, the only state that went with McGovern?
I think it did at that time, yes.
No, it's Minnesota.
Minnesota went with McGovern? I thought
I
it was
don't think-
Massachusetts.
I think it was
Minnesota. It's Minnesota Reagan. It's Minnesota.
No,
Not Reagan.
McGovern.
Shut the fuck up, dude. I'm so done with you coming into politics rooms while you live abroad and then give all these like weird
I
takes
can
and say
live
dumb
anywhere
shit.
the fuck I want to live, bro. Like, we can all
No,
go
actually, you
and
can't
learn together.
live wherever you want to live.
Was it Massachusetts?
It's Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Can the Arabs live in South Sudan?
No, fuck no.
Okay, so people can't live wherever they want. My point.
Well, Arab can live everywhere, to be honest. They're even living in the desert, so come on. This is
Yeah, there's no way.
They're not living in my backyard.
So,
No, you think it was
so we're gonna go back to the voting thing because I'm not gonna talk about the Muslims like there's been.
Let's go back to the New England. I mean, so that was my point. I mean,
Yeah.
McGovern, who like nobody would vote for,
Literally
was
nobody.
so far left, and Massachusetts went with him. I mean,
Yes.
that kind of shows it's.
It's always been that way. It's always been that way since Tammany Hall. It's always been that way since it's always been that way since the fucking Boston Tea Party. It's just a different mindset. Like that whole Boston area, like just because she has daddy issues, talks through her nose, and likes to run around with her boobs out shaking Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee cups, doesn't mean you need one of those in your life. You like when you look at the Boston mindset in that Massachusetts area, it's a different beat. They're highly educated. They have a great school system. They have pretty prominent universities that are known around the world, and I think they have what is it? They're either number one or number two in colleges in versus anywhere else in the world. So you have one of the most prestigious states to live in. They have an average median wealth that's higher than a lot of people actually give them credit for. They have some issues in terms of governance. It's mostly because of who they elect, but they've always been to the left. The Irish people helped push them a Democrat, and they've kind of held that ground for a while, which is why you have a lot of liberals going to that area because it's true. And then you have Wall Street. You know what? I've had enough to you. Jesus Christ, dude. Like one more time, I just can't take you. Like the idea that you have Massachusetts, Pepe, it's like all the people in New York on Wall Street live in Connecticut or Massachusetts, and they have homes through there. They park their wealth in various parts of the states. It's just known if you live in New York.
And that's why I just think like this is where I think Chick, just because he's foreign, he probably doesn't realize this. He's talking about one of the places by every metric, if you're to trace like how educated you are, all of that stuff, and just the economy there in Boston, and of course their whole fucking history, which is Boston is the hub of New England. Yes, it is a Democratic stronghold. It's not because of gerrymandering fuckery that they are a Democratic stronghold. There's nothing you can really do to change it, really, and they're overwhelmingly liberal. There's no evil that has been done there to disenfranchise Republicans. They're just that outnumbered there.
Yeah, we have for the RNC office, we have I think 3 guys. That's pretty much it. The RNC doesn't even put a lot of fucking money in there. In fact, it's such a small budget. It just goes to local races on some towns. That's about it. The RNC doesn't even target that area. I don't think we even campaign in that state. That's for the Republican side. I don't think they even touch it. They don't have a desire to. I guess it would be I don't know, fucking Democrats trying to get I'm trying to think Idaho. All right, you're not gonna probably get it. But it's just not there. Democrats don't really campaign in Montana. They definitely sure as hell don't do North Dakota. So, I mean, you just have strongholds of political areas that are pretty much going to stay that way. I mean, it is what it is. Minnesota is another Democrat stronghold. Republicans don't really campaign up there. They don't really care. Minnesota hasn't voted fucking red for 75 fucking years? It's unlikely that they're going to...
I'm just curious. I've never lived in the Midwest.
Because for a long time, they have had Republicans govern them.
My friend was a senator in Minnesota, a Republican senator.
It doesn't mean they're red.
I agree.
They have had Republicans in the past, on and off, but overwhelmingly they are a blue state, and because up until recently, they had been handled very favorably by Democrats because they were pro-union. There's a lot of mining out there. There was a pro-agricultural community without having the immigrants there, because you got to remember, not a lot of immigrants migrate up there for migrant farm workers to go work Minnesota. Like, fuck, it's cold up there. I lived up there. It's fucking cold. It's minus 40 degrees. Your balls fall off in the middle of July. So when you look at that, you have them trying to compete in areas, and they've kind of always been that kind of Democrat safe harbor for them. It's just been a port, like Rhode fucking Island, you know?
Interesting.
But you gotta remember, it was before Democrats started saying, save the fucking planet, stop mining. Now there's a shift going on.
I get it. Like, my grandfather on my mother's side was I won't give away his job. He had a very big, he worked in law enforcement, very, I don't know, high.
Also, don't forget, I
position.
mean, you know that they're all Northern European, Swedish, fucking.
Yes. I just didn't want to be racial in this.
Well, they're all that, so they're all more aligned with more.
Yeah, far more egalitarian. Yeah, no, yeah. Absolutely. I think that when it comes to the northern part of the Midwest, I do think a lot of that kind of came with the people of Scandinavia, Scandinavian descent into those regions, but no, even my grandfather, he worked in law enforcement, and yeah, he was a lifelong Democrat. I remember he passed away like 16 years ago. But I talked to my mother about this like before he passed, and he's like, yeah, he's a Democrat, but the party's changed so much, and I really didn't follow politics that closely at that time, and yeah, I mean, he was. I would say by today's standard, he was. You would consider him pretty far. He's further to the right than me. But yeah, it's interesting. I do agree that the party's changed quite a bit.
I don't think the parties change. I think the times change. And people really, it's not the parties that are changing. I think the people in the regions, depending on how they're politicized, switch to. I mean, for instance, take a look at Texas. It's a state that Democrats have been saying, oh, it's going to turn blue. Every other fucking year, every 4 years, they say the next cycle, it's going to go blue. It's going to be a purple state. And they just don't get it. They come down here, they say things like in Texas, like, oh, hey, we want to ban, the first thing you hear out of a Democrat candidate is, we want to ban assault weapons. Like, do you know what state you're fucking talking to? Literally everybody has 4 guns on them. It's in their belt buckle, in their boots on each side, and they've got probably 2 sitting on their hips and a fucking one in their cowboy hat. So like, these guys are not, and that's the Democrat. That's the DNC leader who's walking around there with a 44 on his hip, thinking he's all fucking going to be the next John Wayne. So I'm always lost when Democrats come down with policies and campaign speeches and think somehow they're going to carry Texas.
Do you don't remember Beto? Beto.
He did it. He did that.
His fake ass fucking Mexican nickname, where he's like, "We're gonna take your AR-15s, yeah." And then it's just like, what the fuck was that? Like, who is this faggot? And he's speaking.
But he didn't understand, because Democrats don't want that shit either. Like, again, it's your region. Like, everybody would assume everybody in Texas is a fucking Republican. Wrong. Houston and fucking Dallas and Austin. Well, Austin's more of a libertarian mindset, I will give that. It's a tech city. It's going to be the Silicon Valley. Invest in Bastrop if you want money. Go look at that region. Buy land. Let Elon come in and buy it for 10 times the amount you bought it for. But, I mean, when you look at Dallas is like, it got all of Wall Street's offices on it already. They're already built up. Majority of all the funding that's going on, or Wall Street itself, is being done out of Dallas. So Dallas is quite quickly becoming Wall Street, New York. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future with that. And if you don't believe me, go down and look at the brand new fucking AI-generated Merrill Lynch building. It's housed there. Like, go look at the numbers of what people are really working on Wall Street versus where they're going elsewhere.
It's funny, you mentioned the one thing about guns in particular, and this is where, of course, the great replacement is conspiracy theory. As if Democrats do not think that demographic change is going to help them. Obviously, they know that, or at least they're hoping that that's the case. But I think they don't understand is that you have the quote unquote browning of Texas, which is mostly Hispanic people, and then you have it here in Arizona and other places, but these motherfuckers love guns too, and they.
But like in Nevada right now, it's got a shift going on. You can ask Abby about it. Like the no tax on tips, the no tax on Social Security. So now you've got old people who love putting their nickels and dimes in the slot machines all day long, and then you've got people who are going to make a shit ton in tips. He's probably going to win that state coming back.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have the gubernatorial one, and we have a popular Republican governor running against a very liberal attorney general, and they clash like crazy. So that's going to be a bit telltale. But the congressional delegation are Dems, and the 2 senators are Dems. It's a crazy state, but everyone's moderate. Well, everyone's moderate. Like, you have to know that. The R's are moderate.
Democrats strong, not a stronghold, but why?
But they're,
Why? Yes, why?
His name is Harry Reid, and he created something called the Reid machine. And it's a big machine, and that's why it was so shocking that Trump took the state, because it went against all the logic of the Reid machine and the firewall that he built. And the firewall didn't hold because they had early voting, and the rurals, which are all very red, beet red, came out in mass, and Trump took the state. But Reid built this crazy machine, because of the unions. The unions are major.
But your rural people are like if you look at a map of Vegas, Nevada, it's like you have Vegas and Reno, and I don't even know what else you guys have. It's just like so sparsely populated.
Little counties that are as cowboy and as red as you can imagine, with cattle and cowboys. I mean, that's what we've got. But and 85% of the state is in urban areas. So something like that. I might be wrong on my exact percentage, but they just came out. They came out en masse, and then the firewall didn't. A lot of the city went red, but people split their ticket. Like, that's another thing. 30% of the voters were independents. So basically, if you saw the ads, and how Jackie Rosen, who was running for Senate, she was very lucky that most people split the ticket. She ran against the veteran Sam Brown, who had a disfigured face. So people were struggling, I think, a lot with the aesthetics. I know that's terrible to say, but I think that was a hard sell for some people. But her ads that she ran, it was unbelievable. She said, I mean, her whole theme was, I am not a party person. The party doesn't control me, and I'm independent in how I vote. That's how she ran every ad. This is a sitting Democrat senator, and that was her message. And she picked up all the independents as a result of it. So it was a close race, but they're all moderates. And at one point, the Bernie Sanders element took over the state Democrat Party, the actual running of the state party, and all of the elected federal representatives removed themselves from any connection to the state party until they finally changed the leadership of the state party.
Something similar happened here. We had with Reuters, Nick Fuentes. We literally had our state party
taken over.
Yes, by them in particular. And then we had Doug Ducey, who was our governor at the time.
Yeah.
And he's more moderate Republican. But basically, a very wild clash happened, at the very end of 2020, where basically the Republicans, like the governor and his staff, they basically you guys are a bunch of fucking loons. You guys have always been crazy. Go fuck off. And they were exchanging a lot of insults online. It was kind of entertaining.
Well, I mean, it's weird because they don't. I mean, it sounds very similar, but on the other extreme. So this was the Sanders people, and you had the far right, So, I mean, for us, there was a big war chest. This happened right when I think it was Catherine Mastro, who was the other senator, was running, and the party had gotten taken over, and she separated her funds from them and wouldn't have anything to do with them. So, I mean, to answer you, we ended up with, because of his machine, we end up with Dems, but a Dem can't get elected if they're far left. And our legislature is all Dems, but our governor is an R, and he was our sheriff, and he was, the sheriff during the October 1st shooting. So he was very, he was very popular. I just want to add something that I learned yesterday that I didn't know. And, Pepe, you've asked me about this, so it's a little off topic, but, when we talk about the October 1st shooting, and I was telling you how much, it was over $800 million that MGM paid out, and trying to find motive, we've talked about that. I was with a friend of mine yesterday who, and we were talking about the case, and she said, don't you see how interesting is, and there's something in law called, an independent intervening act, like something that would take away liability when something happens that's an intervening act. And she said, isn't it weird that they paid out all this money and a crime was committed and it wasn't treated as in tort as an intervening act? And she said, if this had happened at the Venetian or at Wynn, they would never have won. They would never have won the lawsuit, and those properties would never have to pay the settlement, because the metal detectors. And I didn't know about this. They have what's like these invisible metal detectors that are built into the entranceways, into the walls, it looks like fabric on the wall. It looks like pillars, that are built into the actual property. Very expensive. And MGM was too cheap. They wouldn't do it. And they knew about the technology, but they chose not to put it in. And the other properties have installed, basically these detectors that can, they x-ray, essentially they're seeing everything that's walking into the property. So someone coming in with all those guns, they would have picked up that immediately. And it wouldn't have happened. So I never knew that. I didn't know.
I had no idea either.
Isn't that wild? This was told to me by someone who was a sitting judge, who really knew the case. And she said, did you ever wonder? And I'm like, yeah, it didn't make sense. What was I knew the liability was the bad security, but what came out in the discovery is that they knew that they could put in these systems. The other properties, I mean, obviously the Venetian was Adelson, who's very security conscious, who was at the time, and Wynn. And they chose not to do it. I'm sorry to go off topic, but I learned that yesterday.
What I'm interested, though, in is that, do you think that he could have possibly have known they have these...
That property didn't?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, too, because she was saying to me, and I think I told you this, he went to Life is Beautiful to case out that concert, which also has buildings around it, but it's in downtown, and he wasn't sure security, that he was going to be able to get all those, all the equipment up, and what the security was in those properties. That was their guess on it. So I think he was looking for a festival. He was looking for a big gathering. Now, whether he knew that they had this technology, and there's two companies. I googled the companies that make these let's call them devices, but I don't think it was public. I don't think that would be necessarily been something that he would have known.
Yeah,
but it was interesting.
That's why I'm asking, because I don't. He could have been just a very meticulous person and somehow could have figured it out, but I know he did a lot of things that were that hotel in particular. They allowed him to use the company elevator to bring up his guns.
Right, but they wouldn't, had they had this system, they would have seen right away what he had. I mean, Beaver's on stage. He saw the documentary, so he knows some of the context on this. but it's just interesting. So subsequently, everyone has these installed now. So I didn't mean to go off topic, off
No,
the
that's fine.
politics,
That's fine.
but
I just find it so weird that like the largest mass shooter in America, we have like no idea why he did it,
Yeah.
and that kind of I think with everybody this kind of fucks with them. Is it's like, why did you do it? Just for a thrill before you took yourself out? It almost sound. If I had to guess, it probably seems something like that. But
I mean, I would tell you to watch the same documentary Beaver saw.
What is it called?
It's called 11 Minutes. And it's all raw footage. It's the footage of everyone getting shot. I mean, it's the first part's kind of hard to watch, but they have like unbelievable footage of this. And then there's footage of the SWAT team going in to, going into the building, going to his room, and then it's all the footage of the Uber drivers and taxi drivers and everyone trying to grab the victims and triage them and then get them either over to the Tropicana where they triage or to the hospital. And it's all like original footage of it. It's kind of unbelievable. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack this, but I knew that was something you'd want to know.
By the way, you know how they got rid of bump stocks? I was mad about that because I had one. Yeah. And too many people knew I had one. I had on Facebook me like shooting with it, and so it's like I'm not gonna, like this is retarded. I'm not going to catch a case for this, but they have a thing called forced reset triggers now, which actually operate more like actual machine guns. And they're completely legal. It made bump stocks completely obsolete, but now you can fire like at a full auto rate, while being a whole lot more accurate. They've been legal for the last few years. Quite the workaround. And what's really interesting about these forced reset triggers is that they make them for every. They pretty much have designed them so they can work with any type of gun, including belt-fed machine guns, like the M249, which, who sells that? It's F&N. They make a civilian version of a belt-fed light machine gun. It will cost you like $10,000 if you want to buy one. It's semi-automatic, but you drop one of these triggers in, then you can kind of just make it fully automatic for just a couple $100 extra dollars.
So you're saying they're even more lethal than bump stocks?
Oh, way more.
That's wild. So I just Googled one of these companies, and actually the example they give is that they're in talking stick, this technology.
Yeah, force reset triggers. So you had like rare breed triggers, you had Alamo, you had a few different, some of the original makers. Now you have a bunch of people that have started making them, but all of these triggers have to, because like every gun is different, and so they have to make them so they can work with all of these different, how do I put this? So like you have the AR-15, which is like a semi-automatic version of the military M4, M16, and different variants of that. But then you have other weapon platforms, whether it's an MP5 and AK-47, which is a foreign weapon. They've made these forced reset triggers for all of these different weapon platforms, and so people can, they'll make it fully automatic fire rate, but you can hold the cheek weld and you can basically aim more accurately, like as if you were using an actual military fully automatic weapon. Like, they totally went around that.
I wonder if they'll catch on. Anyway, I put in the chat the two of the companies that have these invisible checkpoints. Sorry, Brad. I took you off the topic we were on.
Oh, you're fine. I'm doing like dishes and getting ready for work tomorrow and preparing, to pay more taxes.
Do you have a dishwasher or like?
Brad, are you excited about machine
No,
guns?
I'm not married, Abby. I'm sorry. I don't have a dishwasher.
Are you excited shooting machine gun, or is that just like something you were paid to do by Uncle Sam? You don't really think it's that exciting?
So automatic weapons weren't really. They've never been my thing. I prefer I like my 416 Rigby, my 375 H&H. Those are double rifles for the non-knowing. I get to shoot through things if I wanted to go after somebody, but they're usually for large game hunting. I like my 4570 a lot. It's one of my favorite weapons. And I think the automatic weapons, they're fun. The semis, they're fun. But, I mean, there's something to be said when you pick up that green stock and you hand loaded your round and you sit there and you feel that you squeeze in tight with the shoulder and you're just like, boom. An AR, it's kind of a soft platform, which is why a lot of women prefer it when they shoot it, because it's just an easy to put on target. It's a simple weapon. It is designed for people that have never handled weapons to be able to become quickly proficient with it. That was the purpose behind its design. So honestly, a lot of these automatic weapons are just not my favorite. They just don't have. I mean, maybe a BAR was fun when I fired a few rounds to that, but.
Wait, they had a BAR around when you were in the military?
I go to shows and I get to hang out with collectors.
I mean, I started 30-06 from it obviously wasn't full auto, but wow, that fucker packs a punch.
Yeah, it does. And it's kind of nice, but my 375 H&H, that one packs a big wallop behind it. If you don't have that tight against your shoulder, it's gonna hurt. I'm not kidding. I don't care how big you are, how strong. You're not forget the movies. You're not firing it from the hip. You're not firing it just aiming it out there and holding it. That one's gonna just fly out of your hand, breaking your wrist if you don't hold on to it tight.
I've never fired anything like that ever.
But when I went hunting in Africa, it was a lot of fun. But I usually mainly kept it for bears, moose, and a lot of people have this misconception about large bears bearing down on them, that they can carry something that will, they'll carry an AR or an AR-10 and they think they'll be fine. I'm going to tell you this, that in all the charges that I've had with bears, you don't have that kind of time to unload 30 rounds into that bear. That's not going to be your thing. You're going to
in Alaska, they tell you an AR-15. Don't even think about it using it as a protection against a bear. They'll I think a 44 Magnum was or a 10 millimeter. I forget which one.
I carry a 10 mil. That's because it's a Glock, and you're I don't care if it gets banged up, and it's a 10 millimeter. It leaves a big hole. But even then, that's where you just fire and you hope you
hope at the last minute. But if you were the Alaska Highway Patrol or Anchorage Police, when they were where there was a bear attack and they kill somebody and tried to recover the body. I mean, they went out. They had rifles that they could shoot from more of a distance, but those that were trying to go anywhere near within the proximity of the bear, they all had a 12 gauge. You're not going to have a handgun that with a bear load, you're not going to have a handgun that can even compete with that. And it's scary. You can see videos of it charging just a mother bear getting shot, and the amount of kinetic energy is rather impressive. It will sweep the bear off its feet, but that thing will still fucking come and charge you, and if it gets a hold of you, it's gonna fucking kill you. Scary animals.
They are and I think they're beautiful, and I think there's something to be said when you're out in the wild with the nature, and you're walking, and you see a large bear, and when you're face to face with them, not behind panes of glass, safe in the zoo, but in the wild, and you realize that that bear's a little bit of a distance off. He's still able to get you and track you down and hunt you, and he can get you. So, I mean, you got to make up your mind, what kind of firearm you're gonna take. I take big rounds because I learned a long time ago that when it comes to that, if you go out in areas where there's a lot of, especially spring bears that are hungry, they just woken up, and they're coming out, they're going to eat everything, including their own. So you have to be cognizant, and you have to. I've had a couple charges at me, and I don't take the chance anymore. If you've survived those, most of those guys know that they're carrying a large around, and they just don't fuck around. It's at the very least carry a 12 gauge, because that's going to be your best. But Pepe, I am going to go out that way one day in the woods. I'm going to go out with a big knife. I go walking into the woods and disappear. I'm going to have a warrior's death.
It's just like the weirdest thing. It's like I would see it in Alaska. I didn't see it in Montana, except for with fishermen. Because obviously, if you're fishing, you're way more likely to encounter a bear. But in the summer, you would see just like normal everyday couples. The husband would have like a revolver, a very large caliber revolver in his hip, or a shotgun that was, slung around, his left shoulder. You see this all the time while he's just like walking around with his wife, and it's a whole different thing. And of course, this is not